Hi folks, welcome to your Gersnet immediate post-match reaction pod, coming to you in association with Forest Precision Engineering. My name's Alec Anderson and I am able to stick up Hatful of Hollow, the Smiths, miserable music, miserable title, how we're feeling, because I'm in a room in my house next door to the one in which I have just watched Rangers losing by 2-1 to Aris Limassol. That's a team from Cyprus that you've probably never heard of until we drew them in the Europa League group stages, and it's their first ever win in European group stage football, because this is only their second ever season in Europe. They managed one game in Europe last season. It was a Conference League qualifier and they were put out by a team from Azerbaijan. They have just beaten Rangers, the 1972 European Cup winners, and one of the players tonight, one of the Aris players, was wearing the number 72 in green and white. It's all very symbolic. Yeah, it's Aris. Aris is the ancient Greek god of war and slaughter, and Aris come out ready for war tonight, and we come out wanting people to feel sorry for us and wanting a team to take it easy, and we're needing a really easy night, and thus we got slaughtered as we deserved to. A few people will be watching this thinking, your history only started in 2012. See, even if that's true, well, we've still been a European final 18 fucking months ago, and look at what we did tonight. Absolutely humiliating, just genuinely humiliating. Look, folks, Gersnet, I love being on Gersnet. It's a fantastic podcast, great community of people making the podcast, and more importantly, watching the podcast and giving us feedback. It's just Rangers fans talking to Rangers fans. We just want to reach out to folk. You know, it's like you love to talk about Rangers, good or bad. Things are good or bad. And not, I'm not for a second implying that people will try to, inflate the number of subscribers I've got, or whatever, if you're having to pay for it. But I think one of the the advantages of this being free, of all the people who are on Gersnet doing it for free, and there's not taking any money in. We need to get subscribers up to get the sponsorship that enables us to run the pods properly. But basically, we're not trying to chase any kind of particular copy or any particular editorial angle that we think is going to get us more subscribers. Do you know what I'm saying? We want subscribers so we've got people to talk to, because on a night like tonight, it's just misery loves company. I find myself, even before I was on Gersnet, a night like tonight, I would be on my phone, on the laptop for the rest of the night, just talking to other Blue Noses, falling out with each other, but just in a kind of, we need to get this out of our systems. But what you know is, from that, I'm not sitting here, I'm not going to start, rending my clothes and, Christ, that's been a bad enough night, we don't need that. I'm not going to start tearing out what little hair I've got left, blah, blah, blah. I'm making jokes about being bald, it's desperate. I'm not going to try to make myself cry, and it's not just Rangers fans. You see other podcasts with any other, supporters of any other club throughout the world, just like I'm trying to cry. It means more to me. My loss means more than that team's victory and that kind of stuff. Very unsporting, very plastic, and these folk are tourists. They're not going to be back. They'll get really uptight and emotional about one season, and then they'll just suddenly grow up and realise it wasn't really for them. When you're in it for the long haul, like myself, when you're never going to quit the Rangers. You've had times where you're like, I wish I could quit you. I wish I could quit you, Rangers. Why do I love a bad guy? Mum always says I should have married a respectable football team or something. I don't know. When you just when you realise it's just in you, you don't cry when you get beat. You cry when you win. When you get beat, you just kind of circle the emotional wagons, and you button down and you get the scarf on and you go to Ibrox and you just take it in the face and you sit there for 90 minutes and you go back home and you maybe slowly die inside when things are bad and worry what else you could have done with your time. But I've been on, I love my cinema, I love a bit of music and all that. Who doesn't? I'm saying that as if it's an achievement. And I've tried various other podcasts on various other subjects and thought maybe I could do a wee, film or a bit of poetry, something like that kind of podcast. Analysing poetry, no writing it, Christ. But no, they all go the same way. They have the same thing. People start falling out in the comment sections and all that. It just becomes the same thing. So it's just, football's my passion. Rangers are the team that I am helplessly in love with. And I'm not going to try and pretend to be more emotional than I really am tonight. I'm not going to try and look like what I think you want anger to look like or sound like. I just am quietly humiliated. That was just utterly garbage. I'm raging at all the players. I'm gutted for Steve Davis. He takes no blame as far as I'm concerned for this. And it's just bullshit. It's just been absolutely awful. I said in that the preview pod I did earlier today, and I'm sorry, I'm going to start trying to get the preview pods up a day earlier to let them breathe and what have you, and also to let Rangers see them, because they obviously need to know. They obviously didn't get a chance to see the bit in the preview pod where I said that this was the game I was dreading when this draw was made. Sparta Prague were the same kind of level as them. That'll be a battle. Real Betis, well, as long as they don't give us an absolute tanking, we've not really anything to lose in that, so we've already beaten them, so that was a bonus. But it was this team because they're from Cyprus, and even when I was a kid, I remember reading about, Apollon Limassol, or was it Nicosia, Apoel Nicosia, the team from the capital. They're the most successful team in Cyprus, and in the 63-64 Cup Winners' Cup, they lost 16-1. If you've seen the preview pod, I'm sorry, I'm going over all ground here. They lost 16-1 away to Sporting in Lisbon that season, 18-1 in aggregate. They only lost the home leg by 2-0 because Cypriot teams are dangerous at home. We can fall back in that. And I thought people are still, a lot of people think they're still the same. Like Cypriot football's at the same level as Andorra, San Marino, Liechtenstein, Gibraltar, that kind of thing, and it really isn't. It's, Apollon, they got to Apollon, our team from Limassol. Apoel got to the quarterfinals of the 2012 Champions League, 2011-2012 Champions League. They won their group and all that. This is tonight Aris, or the last of the three big teams from Limassol to actually get into European group stage football. This was our first match. This was our very first match at home in a European group stage. So, yeah, well done. What a night for them. And of course, we had to be the fall guys. I don't know. I felt as if people weren't going to respect this team, and even if they gave us a hard time, and I saw the results, they'd spanked the 1969 Cup winners, Slovan Bratislava, 6-2. They beat them at home in the qualifiers, the playoff for to get into the Europa League group stages. Did I mention the fact that there was a guy wearing 72? I'm so much stuff's going through my head tonight. There's a guy wearing 72 Cup winners. That was us in green and white. He's wearing that number for Aris tonight. So that was just to add to the dark symbolism. But I thought, they're actually at a better level. They've got a lot of players from Africa and all over Europe who are just at a good enough level that if we're not on our guard, they could do us and we'll get no respect. Nobody will be saying, but actually a decent level, this team. There's most people who don't really pay much attention to European football and are not from Cyprus will still disregard Cypriot football. And now I don't give a shit that it's come on leaps and bounds in the last few years. I am one of these people. I'm just like, that's a team for Cyprus. That should never have happened. Rangers were absolutely terrible tonight. I was doing a whole rant and raving thing, the ancient Greece thing, just trying to get some sort of enjoyment out of life these days in the preview pods, talking about the T.S. Eliot's A Wasteland, just to say that I knew how bad things were at Rangers, and now I'm looking at Stevie Smith. Stevie Smith is on the Rangers interim management team, and of course Stevie Smith is the name of a poet who wrote the famous Not Waving But Drowning, and that's what it feels like right now. It's awful. Who do we sack now? Michael Beale's away, and I said in that preview pod, sorry, I'm not really feeling very creative tonight. I'm just going back to what I said previously, that when the manager goes, it's like putting a stopgap and a pipe. Plumbers out there, apologies for the terminology. And those offshoot pipes. You seal off one pipe, and the blame that's all been going at the manager shoots off in different directions, and some of it is going to the directors, and the other parcel of blame is going to the players. And tonight, the players take that. This is. It was horrible. It started, switched on the television. I'm not at the game, thank God, the pair of fans who actually went over there. Although hopefully they'll get a nice bit of sunshine and a good bevy in Cyprus, a lovely island by all accounts. So a hell on earth for me now every time that's added to Luxembourg and Liverpool as names I never want to hear again when it comes to European football. I'm watching it on television, so I switch on TNT, and it's starting with Derek McInnes, the man who knocked us back when he was Aberdeen manager at Pittodrie. The team, Aberdeen, pumped us and get rid of our manager eventually on Saturday. They're pumping us at Ibrox, and he's sitting with Kenny Miller, who played for Celtic, as well as playing for Rangers, and scored against us for Celtic in an All-Firm game. Pair we and my dodges, they're just representing us, just a quality wee Rangers fan. She's sitting there doing her best while McInnes was. I don't think he was putting the boot into Michael Beale. He was saying probably where it's went wrong for Michael Beale, but he was bumming up Tav. He wasn't taking any of this criticism that's been sent towards our captain, and he was. And I'm thinking to myself, do you think you're going to get the job, Derek? And this is the way to get it, is to stick up for James Tavernier. They're sitting there in the wee TNT studio that's done up in the official UEFA bunting that's half orange and for the Europa League and half green for the Conference League. And I'm thinking about Steve Davis when he was talking in his press conference yesterday about being in Rome, for the Ryder Cup, and he said that's bit of an extreme difference to be in Rome for the Ryder Cup and then here suddenly on Sunday night that you've got the Rangers job. And I thought, well, that's you. Just dividing up things there. That's you getting a bit sectarian there, Stephen. Just talking up the division between Rangers and all things Rome. And here he was with the orange and the green. And I was getting myself, this is going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And they're interviewing Steve Davis before the game, and his hair and his wee tracky and all that, his comments were all as tidy as he was when he was in possession of the ball as a player, and hopefully will be again. He's certainly walk into this team or limp into it if he gets himself anywhere near fit in the next 2 minutes. And he's kind of smiling away and just dealing really calmly with the questions that were put to him about his changes to the team tonight and what have you. And I thought maybe it's going to be okay, because I had mentioned in that preview pod how new manager bounce is definitely a thing. Interim or caretaker manager bounce, not so much. And the one time it did work for us anyway with Graham Murty, we ended up giving him the job, and it was worse in the long run. I was at the game at East End Park when Ian Durrant took over for one game as a much a legend, a midfield legend, more so even than Steve Davis, and we were 3-0 down. By half time, I think it was anyway, to the Dunfermline team who were doing nothing all season, and we lose the game 3-2. And the last time we had an interim management team was for the League Cup semi-final against Hibs, between Giovanni Van Bronckhorst taking over and Stephen Gerrard leaving, and we're 3-0 down within half an hour. Pulled that back to 3-1, just pulled it back to 3-2. And when Tommy McLean was interim manager, Tommy McLean, who's got a stand named after him at Fir Park because he's such a great man, became such a great manager, one of our 1972 European Cup winners, as was John Gregg, the man he replaced briefly before Jock Wallace, the coach, the assistant manager in 1972, came back for his second stint as outright manager at Ibrox, and this was like 1983. He lost 3-0 to St Mirren and get put out of Europe narrowly, but he took us off for the second leg of a Cup Winners' Cup tie against Porto, and he lost in Porto. I think he also lost a game to Celtic as well. It's awful. It never really works out. It's been unfair, and Steve Davis, if nothing else, that tonight will exacerbate the process of getting in a new manager, hopefully, because we can't play like that again. We can't risk playing like that again. There's nobody left to sack immediately. There's no. The club is utterly rudderless, or the team certainly is, and the team's certainly rudderless. And you saw that tonight. The players were out there. They've got to take responsibility, as Conor Golson tried to after that semi-final against Hibs in the League Cup a few seasons back. The only good news, of course, is that in the case of when Ian Durrant took over, basically it's Barry Ferguson effectively kicking out Paul Le Guen, and after that League Cup semi-final against Hibs in 2021, we went on to reach a European final. We've been, it was like 18 months, I think, after that game against Dunfermline. In the second half of the season, that League Cup semi-final, we went on to reach a European final. So maybe we're going to be in another European final in 2025 or something like that. That's maybe one thing to look forward to from tonight. And we'll need to get back to another European final to make up for that. It's fucking awful. The 7-1 defeat to Liverpool, I say, was pretty much the worst of my life, as was the game at Progress when under Pedro, when we get put out in Luxembourg. But that tonight was right down there, one of the worst ever. We went, 4-2-3-1. There was 3 changes. Ridvan, Cifuentes back on the bench. Ryan Jack was out. This is from the team who lost or started, the team that started against Aberdeen, that pathetic game on Saturday. Raskin was back in the team, and because he's recovered from injury. Barisic was back in at left back in place of Ridvan, and Scott Wright come in to go on the right hand side of the. So he's getting played, and it's the same. It's a Beale formation, but it's a very common formation in football these days. And you've got Scott Wright playing on the right hand side. Looks like it's something that would suit him best. And I think the most damning thing I can say about that performance tonight is Abdallah Sima on the left hand side. I think was probably our man of the match. Dessers is the lone striker, and Sam Lammers behind him. Were trying their damnedest. They were giving it everything. They were playing as well as they could play, and they're still no good enough. I think Seaman's maybe the only guy who got pass marks tonight. The central defence, Davis and Goldson, just weren't interested, and Barisic was kind of going through the motions. John Lundstrom, I thought, was he puts a cross in for the goal that we eventually pull back in the second half. But other than that, I felt as if he was just coasting, not interested. Kamar Roof, when he came on second half, just looks totally unfit. He's not got his match fitness at all. And I thought Nico Raskin was a bit of an empty shirt at times. But the guys who were trying their best aren't good enough to play for Rangers. And the guys who are good enough to play for Rangers, have proven that they are good enough to play for Rangers, looked like they were taking the piss at the guy who'd been brought in to manage them, their teammate who'd been brought in to temporarily manage them. I was going to say they were shaming the jersey, but the jersey itself was an absolute aberration. That strip, I should have known there was going to be a problem. We come down the tunnel and that kind of, everything's inverted. You know, the actual socks, the red and black socks, are turned upside down in that kit. It's like an Aldershot strip gone wrong, you know, the blue shorts and the red with the blue through it. It was just horrific looking, and it pretty much matched the way we play. Yeah, again, we've done it. We've come out with not just the European strip, but a one-off strip. The first time it gets, you know, halfway through the season, and it gets brought out, and we suffer an absolute humiliation, as we have a few times in our history. If you're looking for superstitious reasons like that, then you had the Aris fans. What was it? They had the big tifo up there. That stadium was just awful. It looked. I mean, maybe it's nice when you're in it, and there's 3 clubs play at it. There's the 3 Limassol clubs play at that stadium, so they've obviously tried to find as neutral a colour of seat as possible. It's kind of silver in their minds, actually grey, and there's more roof than stands around the whole thing. It's a bit like, you know, the Almondvale on roids in the way it's put together, but, you know, the capacity is not much bigger. And it just like a dead fish that was kind of rotten, like a tin can look about the whole thing. And they had a tifo up saying, you know, 300, but with the strength of thousands or something like that, you know. And I'm thinking, is that because they played Sparta Prague in the previous round? But no, they've got the kind of Macedonian style ancient Greek helmets. That's part of their kind of logos and what have you. Their tifos, and you notice that Abdallah Sima actually looks like the same facial shape, and the way his wee beard comes out, he just looks like one of the old Macedonian warriors you get depicted on the amphora in ancient. It's just awful. And then what was Kevin Thompson doing? The noise. He must have been hugging his microphone. They went like talking like this, you know, the whole game. I mean, the commentator seemed as if he was being loud enough. I was starting to wonder, are they actually in a studio in Glasgow? Are they actually in a studio in Aberdeen? Are they going to turn up and do the game at Pittodrie at the end of this? And Thompson's KT's too scared to talk over the crowd noise that's been pumped into the studio, or are they actually right next to another commentary team for another part of the world, and he's scared that he's going to wake somebody up or something like that? The crowd was so wee. It seemed to be. I've got a bit kind of misophonia. I don't know if it's actually a real thing, but it's a term for people who can't stand it when folk make kind of, you know, peripheral vision movements or make wee kind of noises like sniffs or chewing or something like that. And that's all it was for Kevin Thompson the whole way through the game. He's talking so quietly, almost kind of morosely. He was like Tom Waits trying to impersonate Ray Winston in that. You know, the Ray Winston character that he's playing Jack Regan or whoever it was in the film with the Sweeney Lad is doing it now. It was like, there was times it was like I'd woken up next to Kevin Thompson after a drunken night out, you know, and he was whispering sweet nothings in my ear first thing in the morning. And don't get me, when I was watching Kevin Thompson playing for Rangers, there was times I would have been quite happy for that to happen, because he was absolutely brilliant. But it was just, I'm just ranting and raving because I don't want to talk about the game. Well, we're down 1-0. within 9 minutes. Every bit of poor a start as we made in those two other instances I was citing of us having a temporary caretaker interim management team in charge. They just, I mean, the move that Aris worked from that corner they got in the 8th minute was just schoolboy stuff. It was so basic. They just went, oh, is that a short corner? No, that guy, he looks like he's playing it too short, is actually dummying it, and it's went to a guy who's playing a bit further back on the wing, and he floats it into the box. A guy runs onto it, and he got the run on the entire Rangers defence and midfield, and was able just to nod the ball down into the bottom corner. And it's just such a brutally, awfully easy goal. The goal you will score against a team who are not ready for it, who are not up for it, who just not up for the fight. And I think their idea was that they quite rightly knew that Rangers were going to be in a bit of tiz, having lost their manager, maybe a bit of 6s and 7s, and they were going to test that out, and they just got ripped into it straight away. There was nothing from Rangers that indicated those players felt in any way embarrassed about what had happened to them under Michael Beale, about their losses so far this season. Walking round Ibrox, I think they're getting to the stage they're walking round Ibrox and they're taking that abuse from the stands. They're thinking, well, if I can handle this, that's been cruel, I know, but that's the kind of stuff that was going through your mind as we singularly failed to do anything about a really easy goal we conceded. And that's maybe why the stadium filled up a bit. It got a bit more crowd. A few locals were thinking about whether they should go to the game or not. Oh, we're nothing up already. This is worth a look. One thing was Michael Beale, under Michael Beale, we never responded to going a goal up or going a goal down, and we did slowly respond. We let them get another clear shot on goal. They should have been 2-0 up Aris, but we went and we eventually got a couple of corners. I think about a quarter of an hour. What happened? Did we have a penalty appeal or something like that? I know Sima had a shot. We worked a wee move with Lammers and that, and it was like Lammers and Sima, they were just doing that thing where it was never tidy, it was never good. Scott Wright, in flashes, he was getting involved, but he just was pretty much posted missing, and he's not going to be match fit still. Scott Wright, he wasn't getting a game under Michael Beale, and he's been let go basically under Michael Beale, so his head will be all over the place as well as his legs not being up to it. But they were managing to dig stuff out. And we eventually got a kind of shot on goal for Sima, a narrow angle, and then Dessers has the ball in the back of the net, and you like me are giving it fucking offside again. Dessers, you're just absolutely terrible when it comes to offside. And then for a whole 2-3 minutes we waited for VAR, thinking, oh, maybe he wasn't offside. Sorry about that, Cyril, but he was offside. So 3 times in all we had the ball in the back of the net tonight, but only one of them counted. 1-0 down half time, no big changes at half time. We come out the second half, and what was it, an hour or something? Alexander Cochrane, who I made a big deal telling you all about his career in the preview pod, he didn't even appear. He was on the bench. Their top European scorer, the player of the season in Cyprus last season, and I think it was because he's maybe a bit slow. And they just ran at us the first quarter of an hour, 10 minutes. They just ran at us, had us at 6s and 7s, but as we eventually played our way back into the game, he came on for them eventually. And they got a second goal. I think Jack Butland pulled off a great save for Cochrane eventually, but they got the second goal, which they just kind of swept into the net. Just a simple move down the side, pulled the ball across the front of the box. I might even be misremembering it. I just remember it was just awful. It was just like, it was the basics that we couldn't do, we couldn't execute, were the very thing that were getting us undone by them. They were able to pull off the basics. That was the thing with Aris, they could pull off the basics, and that was getting us totally done in. Yeah, it was just absolutely awful. Everything about it was absolutely terrible. We pulled a goal back. Through. Even that nearly get ruled out for Tav being offside, but he wasn't. He was just onside. But Lundstrom plays the ball into the box, and it's a header from Sima, who I think was our player of the match, but he shouldn't really have a player of the match in that team. When he came out with a result like that, Tav, I don't know. He's on his own. I can't do it anymore. I love Tav, and I do think he is a Rangers legend. And now is not the moment to be mentioning that. It's for a different reason, but he's this week. And I thought people saying, he's not as good as he was last season, but it still leaves a lot of room for him to be one of our best players this season. Our attacks that come off all involve Tav, even the goal, he puts the corner in for the goal we've scored against Betis to win that game. It's the goals he scored on the road to Seville and blah, blah, blah. But he needed to do himself a favour. Not just tonight, but this week. I know Steve Davis was having a laugh and all that at the press conference yesterday, but he's just trying to relax. He's trying to relax everybody, but Tav's in there having a laugh as well. And that's bad. He's a player who the bollocking, the shouting and all that kind of thing. That's not how Tav operates, the sliding tackles. That's not his style. He's a modern footballer. He operates by setting an example and he gets into a rhythm, Tav. He's one of these players, he's skillful. He's like Steve Davis. He's all about getting the engine going, and that gets the team going. It's about numbers, getting into the box, getting the balls and crossing into the box. He's as much an attacker as he is a defender, more an attacking threat than he is a defensive threat. Our wing backs are everything to us. So his style does rely on him being a kind of not animated in what he's, talking to his teammates and what have you. No slighter, no physicality. It's about cool heads. So that can be misunderstood at times. But tonight, this week, I don't think he's conducted himself well. He's not done himself any favours. He shouldn't have been having a wee titter and what have you during that press conference in Limassol yesterday. And tonight, it was rank. It's just garbage. No two ways about it. And he is the captain of a team that's taking the piss out one of their teammates tonight with that performance. I'm swearing too much, folks. This is me not getting angry and not acting up and acting emotive to get likes and to get views. But I'm going to be on tomorrow night with Doogie in the Friday night preview pod. We'll be looking ahead. We'll be fearing the game at St Mirren. They are going to scud us on Sunday if we turn up and play like this. And we'll be getting back into what happened tonight with hopefully a slightly cooler head. I don't know about that. Anyway, as I say, misery loves company. Thanks for your time, folks. And the search for a new manager will have just got a hell of a lot more intense tonight, because that was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from a Rangers team. On that bombshell, good night.